Hello and welcome to episode 256 of the 77 Club. Harry, start with the socials.
The Wall 77 Club on, on Facebook and Instagram, at 77 Club Podcast on Twitter. No OS. It's Sam's fault this week that we're late. Sorry, I've lost my train of thought. We're everywhere. 77 Club, Spotify, YouTube, everywhere.
We're everywhere and nowhere, baby. Jack Williams is here.
Good evening, gentlemen.
And Dan Bayliss is here, who looks like, I think Jack said, a World War II pilot because he's got a terrible moustache. I think he looks like Dick Dastardly, but he's always been halfway towards that name. It's Dan Bayliss.
I can't laugh like Muttley, but good evening, everybody.
Sorry I'm late. Absolute nightmare. Commuter Updates is now the name of our WhatsApp group. Me and Bayliss were being very difficult. But on the way to work for me, it was cows that were causing a crash. And on the way back, I have no idea. But we are here now, and that's all that matters. Harry, we're going to start with Sheffield United at home. A first Premier League win for us this calendar year, which is very, very nice. We're up to 8th in the table. And we sort of said, didn't we, last week that we didn't want to mention the E word too much, which was Europe, but it's the one on everyone's lips now.
Not only the E word, we're mentioning the W word later. No, it's this game. It's very forgettable, the Sheffield United one. I've almost forgot everything that happened because second half especially was a massive blur. It just felt like not much happened apart from us hanging on at the end. And yeah, it was one of those. We went into it worrying, didn't we? Thinking we wouldn't be able to get the job done because classic Wolves, we tend to struggle against teams that sit back and we're favourites against, i.e. Brentford, where we lost 2-0. But we got the job done. Wasn't very convincing. It was cold. It was a flat atmosphere. It was everything, but we got the 3 points. Off the back of that Spurs win, we had to get the 3 points, and we did. And thank God we did. But on another day, if Sheffield United had players that could finish, especially two of their counter-attacks they had, it could have been a totally different story. But the main thing is we got the job done.
Jack, we've now won as many Premier League matches, which is 11 this season, after 26 games played, which is more now, I think, than the entirety of the last campaign. It certainly came quicker. And in the previous 2 seasons, it took 25 matches and 23 matches. So does it show what kind of a job that Gary O'Neill is doing, especially when we look at the one that Lopetegui finished the end of last season?
I mean, yeah, it's an incredible achievement, isn't it, really, when you look at it, considering where we were at the start of the season and, you know, how we were all in disarray, really. We were all completely, myself included, I was completely demoralised leading up to the week of the season when Lopetegui went and when Gary O'Neill came in. Very underwhelming appointment at short notice, but there's very little he's doing wrong at the moment. It seems like he's the man with the Midas touch. And these are the sort of games that, on paper, somebody who doesn't watch Wolves very much would look at the table and think, God, that's a banker on your accumulator, isn't it? Like, home win, no danger. Sheffield United got done 5 the week before, you know, home banker. But we are the kings of it not ever working out that way. We are the Robin Hood, aren't we, of Premier League football teams.
Well,
we take points off the good teams and give them to the crap teams. And, you know, as you saw away at their place earlier in the season, it was never going to be a formality. But one good sign you can have of a good team is winning games when you're not playing particularly well. And I think we've seen probably, you know, 2 examples of that in the last few days, and, you know, clean sheets as well in the process. But it was an underwhelming performance, but I'm glad we got the goal. Second half, it got a little bit worrying, didn't it? And I agree with what Harry said, that if we were up against a better Prem team, they would have come in and done us and at least scored against us. But luckily, you know, we were Sheffield United on that day, and you can see straight away why they're going down, because their finishing was awful. And I think I still think now that their free kick opportunity they had in the second half from a really promising position is one of the worst I've ever seen in my life. Like, I don't even know what they were trying to do then, but they've just tried to hit. You've got to at least try and hit the target or something from that angle, but they just try and, I don't know, play across instead, but way too hard, and it goes straight out of play. And those are the reasons, really, when you're looking at why I think that they are doomed. But, you know, we got the job done. It was underwhelming. It wasn't pretty, but at the end of the day, the 3 points is all that mattered, because, you know, jumped us up to 8th temporarily.
Captain Darling. Let's go on to Bayliss. Like Jack says, you know, we've always found it difficult to break those kind of teams down. Is it still a concern, or do you think getting the job done is the most important thing? But we've found a way without being that positive about it.
Just do the job, right? We have not performed against teams below us the entire season, other than Brentford away, where we battered them, and maybe the Everton game at home, where it was far too comfortable. I think on the whole, Wolves did the job. And that's all that really matters. It wasn't convincing in the slightest, and they had their chances. But from a lot of disappointing results against teams below us, you take that, and I've got no problem with it. Yeah, we were dodgy at times, but if you look at it on the whole, we did a professional performance. We got the goal. We did the job. We shut up shop. Yes, they had chances, but they are god awful. And another day, we'd have been shithoused 1-0 and lost. So I'm pretty happy with it.
Harry, the stat that surprised me the most, well, actually, the thing that surprised me the most was Sarabia scoring a header. Secondly, that this is the game where Ryan Aït-Nouri got his first league assist of the season, in what was his first big chance created of the campaign. So he'd gone 55 league matches without providing an assist for Wolves, but an exquisite ball into the box and just very well placed Sarabia for the header.
Sam, those stats, I did not know those. They are incredible, considering how influential he feels on the pitch and how much he seems to create. Maybe he creates the move just before the actual assist or goal. Yeah, but yeah, to be on his weaker foot as well. A great cross, great header too. But I thought Aït-Nouri was pretty decent on the day, actually, not just with that assist. And wow, what a stat. And Sarabia, I think I actually said post-match, thinking back, I think I said Sarabia was our man of the match, but it was a tough pick, really. I think he was trying to make things happen. Neto didn't really turn up on the day, from memory. And as I say, the second half was dog awful. Like, I can't really, apart from Dawson at the end, maybe he made a few vital clearances with his headers. It was just one of them. Another bad day at the office, but this time we got the 3 points. And yeah, mad stat for Aït-Nouri, that, mate. Great you pulled that out. Never knew that.
It's Jack, one of those things that wwfc Jonah says, we've lost when we played well this season, like United away. Sometimes it will be the other way around. Grinding out the result is important. But it was edgy, wasn't it, towards the end? And I think the crowd was sort of giving off that, I almost call it negative, but more nervous energy, because you just know how important that 3 points is in terms of where the season goes from here.
Yeah, there's always going to be games like that. I mean, you look at even the top teams, there's days that they don't turn up. And, you know, as I said, just the sign of the really good teams is that they pick up points even when they're not playing well, or win games when they're not playing well. So, yeah, you know, what goes around comes around, I suppose. And we've been on the receiving end of a few, you know, not just VAR decisions, but, you know, occasions where we deserve something from the game, which we probably didn't get anything. So, yeah, I'm happy to take them when they come. But, you know, Sheffield United fans on the other side of that will be thinking they probably should have taken something from that game. And, that, you know, I think when you look at the chances they had, they probably should have. But it's their shooting. And, you know, if you come up into this league, it's hard enough that you have to take your chances when they come, and you have to score. And if you don't score enough goals, then you just go straight back down, and that's what's going to happen, isn't it? So
I don't know, Jack. We did the exact opposite at their place, and we ended up losing to a dodgy penalty in the last minute. So,
well, they say when they say, oh, it evens itself up over the season, Bayliss, it sort of might be a little bit of a case of that, but it is mostly from their poor showing rather than anything that officials are doing.
Yeah, that's why they're going down. They're their chances, and they just can't get close to scoring a goal. So that's why they're bottom of the league. That's why they'll stay bottom of the league until the end of the season. But
you think that's it for you? Haven't seen enough to great escape it.
Wolves, good God, no, they're absolutely terrible. But Wolves weren't great, but we did everything we needed to, and the goal itself was a very good goal. If Wolves had played well and scored that style of goal, you'd have been raving about it. So. Nothing wrong with it from my side.
All that mattered really about Sunday was the 3 points, to be honest. And if we do have ambitions of finishing in the top half, or maybe even better than that, and pushing for those European places, it's all well and good beating Spurs, beating Chelsea. But if you do like we did against Brentford at home and then lose those sort of games, then it's not going to count for anything, really. It's going to give you some good days on the way and some, you know, memorable victories. But at the end of it, you're still going to be mid-table. And one thing we have got coming up is if you look at our fixture list, particularly our home games, we're playing quite a lot of teams in our running that are technically below us in the league now. So for most clubs, you'd think, oh, that's a fairly favourable running, but it doesn't work that way for us. It can often be the opposite. So anything that we can do to get a few results against these teams at home. We're not going to go and start dicking teams 4 or 5-0 like Man City might do. Anything we can do which shows we're improving in these sorts of games and being better at breaking teams down and then ultimately shutting them out, because the defense lately is the positive, I think, from the last week or so overall. Then that's a good sign, and that's what we need to start doing, because we've got to back up those really big memorable wins against teams where we're overperforming a little bit by following it up with the less glamorous games, aren't we?
I think it's more like gut and grit mean a lot in football, and when you get on a run, you tend to follow it through, and that's what Wolves are doing at the moment. We've had a couple of bad games, but all in all, since November, Christmas, we've been pretty consistent, and that hasn't shown. Brentford was a bit of a blip, but otherwise, I think we've been reasonably good. So, whereas Wolves of old would have gone beat Tottenham, lose to so-and-so, back and forth. We have been reasonably consistent. I think that is the difference. That's why I'm so confident about what we're going to go on to in about 10 minutes.
Well, shorter than that. Harry, let's just finish off that with the man of the match. You mentioned Sarabia. Are you sticking with that?
Yeah, I think it's between Sarabia and Dawson on the day. Like I say, it's not an easy pick because of our performance, but I'll stick with Sarabia, yeah.
Jack?
Can't really remember. Like you say, as soon as you've watched another game, which was very similar, 3 days later, you kind of forget everything that happened, doesn't it? But Sarabia, why not? He scored.
Do you have a clean sweep of Sarabias?
I was actually going to go Dawson. I thought he was very solid at the back when it got a bit ropey, so Dawson,
okay. Harry, let's turn our attention to FA Cup action. We've knocked another Albion out of the FA Cup. How exciting. It's just what we do this season. Now into the quarterfinals for only the third time, this will make you feel old, third time this century, reaching this stage of the competition. Previously 02-03 and 18-19, of course, on the road to Wembley, and the biggest disappointment ever, and I still can't bring myself to watch the highlights of that game. But it was, again, a bitterly cold Wednesday night, Molineux. It's a bit of a theme of the season, isn't it?
Do you know what? It weren't as cold as Sunday. That was one bonus. It's a little bit warmer. But yeah, it was a bit of a bizarre turn of events. You turn up, the team comes out, and you're like, oh, Gary, really? Hopefully it's just down to fatigue. Obviously, Doherty in, Doyle in, Bellegarde in. Who was the other one? Santi Bueno for Dawson. But then you find out we've got Coventry. It come through that we've got Coventry, and everyone in the ground was like, oh my God, rename the team, please. Because, everyone was like, we've got to proper go for it now. This is a huge opportunity. But then before you know it, we go 1-0 up after 2 minutes. And I'm thinking, wow, this is too good to be true. And all I can kind of say after that is, yes, we defended very well, but it was so stressful for the whole game. Brighton, obviously, are a fantastic team. We've seen it twice already this season. Yep. Fantastic on the ball. It don't matter if they've got so many injuries. They've got loads of their best players out. But the way they play, their philosophy as a club, it's a joy to watch, to be honest. I mean, the Brighton fans must love it. But we did defend very well. Not much going on up top. I thought Hwang Yi-chan had a very poor performance. Obviously went off with an injury. And Bellegarde, apart from doing really well for his goal, was a bit quiet. Neto and Sarabia did make a difference when they came on. I thought Neto should have scored, but just unbelievable defending. And I have been very, very critical of the Molineux crowd. We only had 23,000 there last night, but the atmosphere was unbelievable the last 20 minutes. Kept singing the Gary O'Neill's Barmy Army song, and it was brilliant. It felt like a night to remember, really. I think the crowd played a huge part in getting the players over the line. And now we've got to go and have our hearts broken again at Wembley, potentially.
I just want to, before we go on to the rest of that game, Jack, obviously we knew that we got Coventry. It was one of the first times that the draw's been, before the round of fixtures has been finished. How do you feel about knowing? Because I reckon the nervousness in the stadium and the atmosphere that it was then lifted was, I think, because it looked like a passage through to Wembley, because we knew who we had and where we had them, obviously, in the next round.
Yeah, I mean, as a general principle, I don't know why they've started doing it like this. I think you have to wait until pretty much every game is finished before you do the draw. I don't mind if there's like a Monday night game and they do it before the Monday night game when there's just like one left to play. But when you're just playing it after the first day of fixtures and you're doing it before the games rather than after, I just really don't understand whose bright idea that is really and who it benefits. But obviously, I wasn't there last night. I was a plastic sat on the sofa, so I was watching the draw at 7:00. And obviously, we came out first. I was like, straight away, that's us. And then I was just thinking, right, next ball out, just don't be number 8, which is Man City. And he said number 7. It took me a while to think. I was like, oh God, it's Coventry. Like that's the home to Coventry is the dream scenario from this draw, and we don't usually seem to get that lucky. I thought like Man City would be home to Coventry or something. That's usually the way it seems to go. But as soon as that ball came out, then I think everyone's attitude towards the game changed because it's just because, no disrespect to Coventry, but from any of the other draws we could have got, it's the most favourable draw with the highest chance of us progressing to a semi-final. That's a fact. That's a fact.
You can't argue with Leeds. On your chips?
I mean, yeah.
And more Chafford line the same time next week, but yeah, go for it.
Liverpool have been playing the kids. I would have rather had Liverpool at home now and got them out of the way before a semi or final.
That's just speaks load of nonsense I've heard in my life.
This won't play the kids next time.
This Klopp's kids thing is a bollocks anyway. It's complete horseshit. Like, they got a couple of 19 and 20-year-olds, and you're like, right, okay, so they're not, if they were 16, 17 and doing the business, you think, right, okay. The average age of the team that finished against Chelsea in the League Cup final was older for Liverpool than it was for Chelsea. But there's this media attention played to the fact that there's 2Ks, so you can do Klopps and kids, and they seem to run with it. I just think it's complete nonsense.
I just fancy us at the moment. I think if we went out against any of those teams at Molineux, we've got half a chance. City being the anomaly. But yes, we've got a favourable draw. Yes, it gives us the best chance at Wembley. But I don't know. I've got this weird optimism, and I know that dreaming's for free and all that, but it's just fallen right. And I don't know. I'm going to get giddy about talking about Wembley again after what is quite possibly one of the worst days of my life. The last time I went there.
Well, no, it is the hope that kills you, isn't it? To be fair, Harry, let's concentrate on the game. Really early goal, and aptly, Lemina's clearly a fan of the show. Scored on 77 seconds. Great move. Bit of a flap from the goalkeeper, but to be fair, even when he's lying on his arse, he seems to find the net.
Yeah, that steal for them is usually quite reliable, and he kind of dropped it to Neto Lemina. And yeah, weird. He ended up on the floor, and then Scissor kicked it in. And fair play to Lemina. We needed it because, like I said, especially first half after that goal, we didn't offer much at all. Nothing was sticking up there. It was like a 5-3-2, wasn't it? With Doyle, Gomez, and Lemina, which I don't really see us do that much under O'Neill, really, with just the two up there. But Bellegarde was kind of everywhere. And there weren't much of a threat. It was dying out for a substitution early in the second half, but I think Gary O'Neill wanted to wait. But good finish. Lemina loves it, doesn't he? He's such a fan favourite. And I agree with one of the comments that was someone put a minute ago about how much we miss Cunha, like how much he used to stretch play and things like that. It was very noticeable last night. That's Jonathan Clark. Yeah.
So I think last night highlighted how much we miss Cunha, not just in front of goal. He stretches the play, isn't out poor for the defence and drags up the field. And I completely agree. And there was another one in here about Sarabia and the difference that he made when he came on as well. The minute Sarabia came on, we started to link up, play more, shows his free role is vital to our build-up.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Yeah. But so noticeable. And Neto, like I say, nearly scored, didn't he? When his pace, just that outlet of his pace being there, should have done better. But yeah, he was back to the Wolves, wasn't it? And it was a quick turnaround from the Sheffield United game. A bit of pressure on the game, but again, heroics, absolute heroics. I mean, I don't know if you watched it on telly, but the atmosphere was amazing in the ground. I don't know how it came across on telly, but
sounded good.
Yeah, even against Coventry next up. I know we're getting ahead of ourselves a bit, but hopefully Molineux's like that again. Because we can't have this we're going to win mentality, because it could potentially be a banana skin. I know they're like 9th, but yeah, getting ahead of myself. But heroic defending. And it was a much more enjoyable game than Sheffield United, put it that way, because of the atmosphere. And obviously, Brighton are a great team. You know what I mean? Brighton, they probably fancy themselves to win the cup. So to knock them out is a big feat, I think, really. Can't go unnoticed.
A lot of love for Santi Bueno, Jack. A lot of people saying that he's probably the next in line when Dawson eventually hangs up his boots, obviously pushing towards his mid-30s. He's 34, isn't he, Dawson? So looks a completely different player to the one that we saw playing at Ipswich, but I think the whole team and the manager can be put in that category.
Yeah, Ipswich, I think we should probably just drop that now because everything that's happened since then has been, really good. And how many minutes have Bueno even played before then for us in England? Like none. Mm-hmm. So I think we can give him a break. But no, yeah, really good. I think defensively, everybody did really well. And Bueno has obviously come in. He's the one who's sat on the bench at the moment, but he didn't look out of place, really. If anything, he excelled and stood out, which is really, really good option to have. And when he's come in recently as cover as well, when we've had, players out, he's done well. So yeah, really pleased with it. It's one of those games where, we started quite brightly and then we knew that Brighton were going to start to come at us. The early goal did really help. But as it went on, you were just thinking, particularly as it got towards like the second half of the first half, they were starting to turn the screw a little bit. And as Harry said, I think when the changes came on and Sarabia and Neto came on, it gave us a little bit of improvement for a bit, but not forever, for about 10 or 15 minutes. Hwang, I didn't like, he may as well has not been playing because at half time I was like, what's he actually done? I don't know what's wrong with him. I'm not sure if he's not fit. And the fact he kind of went off injured probably indicates he probably wasn't, but he's not looked great since he came back from the Asia Cup, has he? But the one good thing I will say, and if you look at it overall, is it's an incredible defensive team performance. And really, if you're trying to, for all the ball they had and all the worrying, half moments of, possession they had, apart from really, oh shit moments, oh God, they're going to score here. The only one I think there was the goalkeeper. Exactly, it was the goalkeeper with the very last kick. And as soon as that ball broke, I was like, oh God. And
I thought he was going to steal an equaliser.
I mean, luckily it fell to a goalkeeper, and we've got the finish of a goalkeeper, didn't we? Really, but that was the only real moment where I was like, "Oh bloody hell!" I thought we were really in trouble, and apart from that, it was just really, really great composure from the team. We stuck to our guns. We made it really difficult for them to do what they do, and that's
Do you not
score.
think they were poor? Do you not think Brighton were poor?
I think their overall play was decent, just their finishing.
Some of their tackling
I just thought final third they were bad.
But the thing is, they're not a bad team. We know that. I think we made them bad, and the same kind of thing happened in the away game there recently. Like we kept them out again, and if anything, we created the better chances in that game, but they couldn't break us down. And the same things happened again. And to keep a team like Brighton out for two successive games after they did us 4 earlier in the season, I think it's a great achievement. And again, these last 2 games have not been the most glamorous, but there's certainly positives. And as someone in the comments said earlier, these are games that we could have easily last season or under Bruno Lage would have probably lost both of them. So,
I totally agree. Neil says, just love the way that João Gomez lifted Mario Lemina to celebrate his goal at full time. Nice to see that squad is so united, isn't it, Bayliss? And you think compared to some of the factions that we maybe started to see under Lage, and maybe Lopetegui mended it a little bit, but then obviously had his favourites and fell out with players. So the unity is rather fantastic.
Yeah, totally. I think since we utterly lost our shit after the Ipswich game, Wolves have been unbelievable. And I think the whole point of all team sport is that if you want to play for your mates on the pitch and want to play for the club or the team or the manager or whatever it happens to be, if it's that unified feeling and there's some sort of synergy between people, it's a better experience for everyone. And that's what we're now seeing. Sorry, that was a bit prophetic, but there is something going on at Wolves that is better than just 11 people playing football on a pitch. They clearly give a shit. And we're now seeing it week in, week out. And I'm wholly optimistic. I don't know whether it's the manager or the people they've got in, or whether there's been a bit of a change behind the scenes. Whatever it happens to be, Wolves are a great side to watch, and they're clearly enjoying it. Like Cunha was down on the touchline in his big white puffer jacket, hugging the players. Like a guy that's taken a knock could have been sat at home in the warm watching it on the telly, and he's there. Like they care. And that's what we asked for, right?
Yeah.
That is what we ask.
More often than not, like we'll say, we just want you to try was usually what we say, and then we got spanked about 6-0 by Brighton. We were like, you need to try a little bit harder.
A bit harder.
Yeah. Harry, somebody that's been there before and done it with Wolves and obviously been as disappointed as we were as Matt Doherty.
Yeah.
Re-signed in the summer, and I thought he is a safe pair of legs, isn't he? Came in, did the job. Totally different kind of player to Semedo, which is kind of what you want. Offers that attacking threat. He's up the pitch a lot more. And I imagine he probably feels like there's a little bit of unfinished business there.
Definitely, yeah. I was glad you brought him up because I was going to bring him up myself. In the air, defensively, yesterday, he was brilliant. Like when we were hanging on at the end, Eddie, big deep balls to the back post, he was winning it, flicking it on. He was the outlet as well off the big goal kicks, winning the flick-ons out on the right. And he had a good game. He weren't like outstanding, was he? Like obviously not much to do going forward, but he was safe and he was safe defensively, and a bit of pressure on him because Semedo has been fantastic, hasn't he? Like I mentioned how good I thought he was at Spurs. So a bit of pressure on him. And yeah, he must be in the back of his mind, like the heartbreak of that semi-final. Obviously, he put us 1-0 up that day, didn't he, with the header off a corner, wasn't it, or a free kick? So he'd be desperate to get back another chance, a crack at a semi-final if we can get there. And he might play. You never know. If he decides to keep some of the fringe players in for the cup run. But yeah, brilliant performance from Doherty. He's always reliable, isn't he? He's been reliable every time he's come in. You think of the Albion game, set up Neto, didn't he, for that counter-attack? And yeah, brilliant performance from him.
And Harry, when Matt Doherty scores the winner to put us 2-1 up against City in the FA Cup final, where at Molineux do you build the Matt Doherty statue?
Next to the Gary O'Neill one.
Gary O'Neill's, yeah.
Exactly.
He'd do well to score from the bench, shouldn't he? Fair play.
That'd be a good point.
Play.
I think I always give Lopetegui a hard time because I think as soon as someone leaves the club, they're pretty much dead to me unless it's someone like Neves. But James makes the comment saying last January's transfer window was arguably our best yet. And so some credit oddly does go to Lopetegui. And I think all the players that we're mentioning here, the Laminas, the Gomez, the Cunha, that you got to give a little bit of respect, I suppose, to the man that said he didn't think he could get anything out of this squad.
Did he have much involvement? Yeah. I think Cunha might have been. I could be wrong on that. But like João Gomez wouldn't have been his call. Like Babacar Traore, Dawson, Lamina. I don't think any of those were Lopetegui's call. And as you've just mentioned, Sam, he didn't think they were good enough in the summer.
Exactly,
so he must be.
He looked at this and do you know what? Nobody's come running for his signature since.
No.
You know,
but we can't talk too much because we were all crying at the fact he left.
Yep.
I've listened back to our pre-season podcast and we were all upset he left. So, but how things have changed, and the players who have come in that January, they're all our star men now. They are. So I agree with that comment.
It's certainly better than the January transfer window just gone, and now particularly with the injuries we've picked up and the great position we're in now, you know, on paper and with the cup run. I hope that we just don't fall short because of injuries. And it's looking like it's a real possibility. It's a real concern for me now, to be honest. It could happen. You know, if Wang's out as well, as they said, it's hopefully not too serious, but we're looking around and we're just really, really short on options, particularly in some really key positions, really, in forward players. So I hope that it's not
quarter final though.
Yeah, he'll be back after the international break. I think.
So the original, everyone was saying he'll be back for Villa, but then on Instagram, someone put a comment, didn't they, saying you'll be back for the quarter final, bro. I think he's way ahead of schedule with his recovery from his injury, so there is a chance he might be on the bench for the Coventry game. That's the rumour going around. He's obviously desperate to get back, but we can't do what we did with Neto and bring him back too soon.
Yeah, well, you don't want to rush him back, but like Jack said, when you're thin on the ground and players are falling like flies, it sort of happens.
Wang's going to miss Saturday, isn't he?
Yeah, you don't want to make it worse than it already is, and you know you can end up with a career like Kalajic. You know, it's just not worth it. Let's move on to Newcastle. Newcastle away. Harry, you're going on a coach, I believe.
I'm glad I'm not walking.
No, it is a long way, and that is a fantastic segue. I've taught you well. You've spoken to Manny. He is walking from Molineux to St James's Park. How far is it
195 mile.
I thought it was 200 and something. I thought it was a bit more than that.
Oh, wow, yeah.
195.
Yeah.
From Molyneux
Oh,
to the Bobby
Jesus.
Robson statue is 195 mile.
Wow.
It's,
Okay.
it's
Incredible.
mad. Just to be honest, just before we come on, I've just seen some of his videos. He was up at 3:45 a.m. this morning, which is Thursday morning, for those who are listening at a later date. And he's still going at time of recording. He's still going for like another 45 minutes. So he's put in like a bloody 16-hour day or more today. I think he's up to 130 miles. And when I spoke to him, because he did Chelsea, didn't he? I think that took him 2.5 days. And obviously he cycled to Liverpool. He said himself on the chat I did, if you hadn't listened to it, he said himself, I think he's got a bit of a screw loose, which I think I agree with, because this is, God, like his feet, his back, his knees, he said he's strapping them all up. He must be in bits, but fair play to him. It's some challenge. And we've seen how fit he is, haven't we, lads? Remember that charity game? He was the fittest bloke on our team.
Yeah.
He's running rings around us, and we've got 20 years on him. Like,
Fair play
A
to him.
little bit by calling him 60, and I don't think he's anywhere near that. But
Yeah, no.
maybe more to make us feel better than to be truthful.
That is an unbelievable feat. Excuse the pun. That's class. Have we shared the link for his
Yeah,
UK Just Giving page? Yeah.
Yeah, it's just giving /M Kang. It is in the description on the last podcast we put on Monday. He's raised so much money. I think he hit 30 grand for the Chelsea ball.
Right?
Yeah, well, that's from his total, but for just this one, I think he'll be around the 30,000 mark. Alan Shearer shared it earlier.
Oh wow!
He was on Instagram Live with Susie Perry, and then I think they sorted out for Alan Shearer to retweet it and all that. And he's going to be on the pitch at the game as well. But I said to him, the worst part's going to be walking up the stairs to the away end.
yeah.
It feels like 195 miles.
Yeah.
On an incline. Yeah,
But yeah.
incredible. Yeah. Donate if you can.
Have we taken any inspiration? Are we going to do something like that?
Our fitness levels.
Be inspired by Manny. You know what would happen though, wouldn't it? Like we'd say, "Oh, we'll walk to Newcastle. We'll go do the first day, get hammered in some pub, and the rest of it will just be us being sick in the canal, like on our hands and knees on
That
days.
is exactly.
And we'll miss the game."
Yeah. After you give everyone their money back, because I mean that's why we lost the Gran Torino. Obviously, the race to Turin, because we got me, you, and Bailey's got too drunk in Switzerland.
We won in a car.
That's it. Yeah. So, let's concentrate on the game, Jack. Do you see any changes? I mean, I imagine there's going to be people coming back in. Those changes were made against Brighton, I think, with Newcastle on the horizon.
I mean, yeah, there's definitely going to be changes. Neto, Sarabia, Semedo, I'm all expecting to come straight back in. I don't really know what to do about the Wang situation, really. I'm not really quite sure how we'll set up. Any of you guys, any ideas? It's
Bellegarde him, wasn't it?
I know, but that doesn't really fill me with much, much optimism, to be honest. I'm not a fan of that.
Play Fraser with Neto and Sarabia either side.
I don't trust Fraser.
Fraser, no, he's too young, and it's away at a really Champions League, Premier League team. That's a hell of a task, isn't it? Like, so I think we're going to have to try and work with some square pegs round holes a little bit, and I think it might have to be quite a defensive setup.
Dan, do you agree? I mean, 5 at the back obviously makes sense. It's that front line. I think Sarabia maybe makes a case.
Neto
coming in, offers a little bit more on the break.
I'm not overly fussed now. Sod the league.
Yeah.
There was a comment about this. So would you guys take falling down the league to get to an FA Cup final?
100%.
Yeah.
100%. Give me 16th or 15th and the cup final. I'll see you there.
Well, we've got to win the final to get Europa League.
That's the thing. I'm torn between the fact. Obviously, I'd love an FA Cup final just for the experience, albeit it's unlikely that I still think we'll win it even from this position. But I want that European thing.
I need semi-final closure.
I know you want closure, but
Yeah,
I also want like at least 3 games away in Moldova or wherever it might be in the Mickey Mouse Cup.
I
in Belfast.
I can deal with losing to City or Liverpool in a final if we get there. Whereas,
I'd fancy this on any day because I'm biased. But I think when you look at what happened to Watford when they got absolutely panned. Was it 6-0 in the final when in
Yeah, but that wouldn't happen to us.
That wouldn't happen to us.
I don't
That
think it
wouldn't-
would. I don't think it would.
It wouldn't
I
happen
don't
to us
think
under
it would.
Nuno. Like, it wouldn't
No, I don't
happen.
think so.
I'm not saying we'd have
We
won,
beat-
but we wouldn't have got battered.
We beat
Yeah,
City
but then-
twice that year, that season.
Yeah,
in the league. We
yes.
beat them twice, so we'd have done better. But if we do lose, if we get past Coventry, if we get to the semi-final, if we lose, I just hope we lose like 3-0. I can't handle another being 1 or 2-0 up and having the late goal. Like, I can't handle that. We need a bit of
never watched
closure.
it back. I've never watched it back. I can't.
I have. I just pause it though on the 75th minute and then turn it off. Leave it 2-0.
Just be happy.
Just pretend.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if you squint during the final, then it kind of looks like the same colours as what we.
But yeah, so just on the question though, I don't know. I want to do both. Why can't we just be greedy and get to an FA Cup final and get 8 or 7?
Stephen in the comment says that. Why can't we have both?
Yeah, on the game, I think it'd be a 3-4-3. What we played away at Spurs, it'd be Bellegarde, Sarabia, and Neto as the three. Probably Neto through the middle, or Sarabia maybe, and then the rest as you were as the best it can be. But Doyle, I thought, had a good game against Brighton, but I think he'll be the one that misses out, and it'll be Gomez and Lamina in midfield. So interesting. But Newcastle, they ain't been that convincing this year in the league, have they?
Oh, no.
So if they've got a few injuries, I fancy it. I really do, and. Yeah, I hope for Manny more than anyone. In fact, he's at the walk there. I hope we can get a result.
Back?
No, no.
Yeah, I mean, there's
I'm
only a
hoping to
point
get there
between us
in
and
time,
Newcastle. Obviously, we are slightly higher in the league, point in it. Jack, let's do a score prediction.
I would absolutely bite your hand off at one of those 1-1s we always seem to have with them. I think that'd be a great result, really.
Mm-hmm.
Like we're getting to the stage now, particularly when we're playing teams around us and away from home, where just to keep us in with a shout, it's not a must win by any means, but they just do not loses, and the do not lose on Saturday would be great.
Bayliss, are you crying out for a do not lose, or do we want to try and snatch something?
No, the rose tinted specs are very much on.
I don't care. You're on the beach.
Don't care, but I think realistically we're going to lose 2-0 up there. I think they've played a lot of games in a short space of time. This is the one that you let slide by, regroup, go again. This is a couple of 0 loss.
Harry, you are shaking your head vigorously.
Completely disagree. We're on a high. We're on a great run. Newcastle are struggling a bit. This is made for a 2-0 Wolves win. I'm feeling it. Last time I went to St James, we won 2-0, and we're going to do it again.
There you go. I think this now we normally go and get some bets. I don't know if he has any ready. Do you have? He could just me a little faith. I captured.
It's taken me a bloody long time to get back out of central London, so I sat on the train and did some bets.
Excellent.
Harry, you've got to go soon to get on your coach to get there on time.
Wave to Manny on the way.
I'll start with the negative. I did do a 2-0 Newcastle. Isaac first goal, 35-1. It shows how much of a favourite Newcastle are to win the game. I've got a few Wolves ones. A 1-0 Wolves, Bellegarde first goal, 75-1. It's heavy. Lamina first goal, 2-1 Wolves, 105-1.
Oh, see, that's my score. Like that.
And just for Harry Mansell, on his 9-hour coach to Newcastle and his 9-hour coach back, Pedro Neto first goal, Wolves 4-1, 375-1. It's worth
Harry.
That'll pay for the coach. That covers the coach cost.
That's your bets.
Oh, yes. Excellent. Thank you very much for that. We have another special of the season for Jack now, who has a very, very special ticket news.
Yeah, not so much prepared, but all I've had today, and I think a lot of Wolves fans have been the same, is people asking questions about a possible Wembley game, which might not even take place because we've still got to play Coventry first. So
I think first we should podcast on a game that might not happen. So
I think first we should. I think first before even getting onto the subject of Wembley, we should talk a little bit about Coventry because, as we mentioned, previously, it's the best draw we could have had. As we know, for ticket availability for that, cup games get a higher allocation. So the Coventry fans will get the steeple lower and the quadrant in the North Bank. So it would be around the best part of 5,000 tickets there, really. All of a sudden, I think that all these people who weren't that bothered about the midweek against Brighton will be very bothered for this game coming up against Coventry, an FA Cup quarter-final, and I include myself in that. So it'd be really interesting to see how it's priced by the club, because the reason there was a lot of empty spaces last night is because I think the pricing was wrong, really. I think up to £33 in some places, in the Steve Bull and the Billy Wright, when during a cost of living crisis, FA Cup game midweek, that's more expensive than the average cost of a game on your season ticket. So it'd be interesting to see how they price it, but I can see this one selling like hotcakes, really. And there's already been a lot of discussion going on about when we think it will take place. The games last time in the FA Cup quarterfinals, there was 1 on Saturday and 3 on the Sunday. I think it's safe to say that in between the picks for television coverage between BBC and ITV, we will be the last pick. It's definitely the least glamorous tie on paper. Man United and Liverpool will go to whoever has the first selection and probably be the Super Sunday-esque time, I'd say, possibly. But we'll see, I suppose. Just because they were the times last time for the cup games doesn't mean it will necessarily be the same. I know that I think Albion and Birmingham are both at home on the Saturday, so it's unlikely they'll give us a Saturday game if they can avoid it. So probably frees up the Friday night slot as a possibility, which I don't want because I'm going to the horse racing that day. But we'll figure it out anyway. But it's going to be a lot of interest in this.
just
after 15 Guinness. Yeah,
Jack's going to bed.
So the other ones are Chelsea, Leicester, and Man City, Newcastle. So I mean, for the neutral, they are the glamour ties, aren't they? I suppose for us, they're incredibly important. But the Sunday does seem the most likely.
I think there'll have to be a decision on that very soon because it's only 2 weeks. It's only just over 2 weeks away when these games are taking place. So I think there'd have been meetings about that today, and I reckon we'll probably get an announcement tomorrow with the tickets going on sale pretty damn soon, really, to season ticket holders for our game anyway, and then we can sort of take it from there. But quick turnaround, and I honestly think that the worst partnership in history between Wolves and Ticketmaster must be terrified of the fact they might have to try and shift 34,000 tickets for a Wembley game because it's going to be a shambles. And as I was saying earlier, I've had lots of texts already from family members, and it was a big discussion in the group today, wasn't it, about loyalty points. And as I'll say it again, we're getting ahead of ourselves. Coventry are a decent team. They were probably quite happy with that draw as well, getting us when they could have had someone a lot tougher. They will see it as a possibly winnable game. Some of their people on Twitter have sort of said, they think they're a Premier League team in waiting. They're very hard to beat. They've only lost a handful. But at the same time, I think you look at how they've got there to that cup run. They've beaten Oxford, Sheffield Wednesday, and then Maidstone. It's, I think they're in a bit of a false position just due to a favourable draw, shall we say. So, but you can't take it for granted. Do you want to talk about Wembley tickets, or are we getting ahead of themselves?
I was going to say, just on the point of Coventry, they've won 30, they've drawn 12 games this season. It's a lot of games, and they've played 34, drawn 12 of them. I mean, just over a third of your games.
They're going to shit out, aren't they? They're going to sit back.
Look, that's a conversation for next week.
Yeah,
we're not going into it yet.
Can I just mention something? Can I just mention something that's important? Because we've got Coventry on the 16th, the weekend of the 16th. The Bournemouth game's moved, hasn't it? So we'll have Cunha back for that potentially, which is quite a big key thing. We'll have Cunha back for the Bournemouth game whenever that's rearranged.
And it means Bournemouth's 11 fans will have to travel up midweek, so there'll be 6 of them.
So true. So true. Yeah. It's like the Brentford fans, to be fair. And that was a very, very poor showing at Molineux.
What did you want to say? What did you want to ask you, Sammy, about you were saying Jack?
Oh, I was going to say, what did you want to say about Wembley?
Nothing. I think we're getting ahead of ourselves. We shouldn't talk about it. But if you're looking at what the allocation was for the semi-finals last year for the clubs participating, it was 34,000 and goes down to about 30,000 for the final. So if it were to happen, every season ticket holder would be guaranteed a seat. I'm not sure how many memberships there are, but I reckon a hell of a lot of members, just by those maths, really, will, it's going to be nearly 10,000 tickets for members potentially.
Get a membership
just for the semi-final. So if you haven't bought a membership yet, I think they're still on sale. It might give you a chance, but there might be a lot of people doing that in the same boat. So
a lot of people doing it, and then a lot of people who have memberships that have maybe done a couple of cup games and then they have the points, and it's obviously.
I think you'll be fine if you've got a membership and you've just even done one game already this season. I think that puts you in a very strong position for at least a semi-final ticket of the game that might not happen.
Yes, we must stress that this may all be.
Actually, no, it will happen. We just might not be there.
Yeah.
It's definitely going to happen.
Definitely happen. Talking about Newcastle, just previously, there's a former Newcastle Man City keeper, Shay Given, says Gary O'Neill, Harry, is in the shop window. He was talking on Match of the Day 2, and the panel was talking about Gary O'Neill guiding the team to 40 goals already, reaching the mark in 26 games, which is Wolves' fastest rate since winning promotion in 2018. The quickest they've hit 40 goals in the top flight campaign since 71-72. He obviously now has more wins than Lopetegui. Are you worried that someone may snap him up in the summer?
I think he owes us one, so no. I think he's staying another year. He's gratefully got the opportunity, hasn't he? And obviously he's done amazing. I think the only job that would take him away is England, but I can't see that happening. It's too soon. But yeah, he's done well. Look, our starting 11 is really good, but we've got a really small squad, and he has done a fantastic job, and he has improved players, so deserves all the plaudits he's got. And we mentioned that tough start. That Man City 2-1 win after Ipswich is so crucial. If we'd have got battered that game, he might not even be our manager now. You've got to think back to the narrative around that Ipswich game. I'd say about 70% of Wolves fans wanted him out. People can pretend they didn't, but they did. I can remember it.
Bayless wanted him out.
Bayless wanted him out after Brentford, and the Brentford replay.
Dan, I mean, we're talking about him potentially moving on to a bigger club, and it's amazing, isn't it? And it just shows what kind of coach that a lot of other people think that he is, and we know him to be, and that he still hasn't completed a full Premier League season as a manager.
Yeah, I think if he is just going through the door into the shop window, and he's almost there. I think if Wolves did do something special and got to a cup final or won a cup like that, then he is very much in the shop window and he goes. One thing I will say, if we did do something ridiculous, which is in all of our wildest dreams, and he did take us to a cup final or even got the cup, if he went off and took a job after that, cheers, mate. Build a statue. Thanks a lot.
I agree. And the person that didn't want to get carried away 5 minutes ago is talking about building statues and winning the FA Cup. So
dreaming's for free, Sam. Dreaming is for free.
Yeah. And it's the hope that kills you.
Just thinking back now, just to this whole cup run, which you can't stop thinking about. But how important was that goal that Tommy Doyle scored against Brentford when we were down to 10 men? Like, that just goes to show we could have easily just turned over and folded that game. I remember being there in the ground, and before it, I wasn't too bothered really. It's just one of those games that, if we go through, great. If not, it's not the end of the world. But the way that game unfolded, and we really had to dig in and put our backs to the wall, and that just made me and I think the rest of the fans, the players, really want to try and grind out, get through to the next round, and then it's just snowballed, doesn't it? So it just goes to show, really, you just got to, you've got to dig in.
We scraped through the replay as well.
Yeah.
It was
I took a mate with me to Brentford.
No, the replay at Molineux.
Yeah, fair enough. But I'm just saying in general, like the way we did that game away at Brentford to get a 1-1 with 10 men from 9 minutes or whatever.
We're the better team.
I took a mate with me who's he supports Charlton Athletic, right? He watches League One crap football all the time. And he was like, fucking hell, mate, I wish our team played like this. Like, he was just into the fact that the players gave a shit, they tried, and that's why it's good. Even though we scrape through games and our performances aren't that great, they all care. That's the difference.
Yeah,
I agree. Yeah, and for me, it just does take me back, as I said before, to Shrewsbury in 2019. When you think exactly the same as what Jack said, third round games, fourth round maybe a little bit different because obviously beat Liverpool in the third round, but they're games where you go, oh, it's a nice to win, but I'm not really bothered if we lose. And then obviously it gets a little bit more serious and a lot more serious. And then, oh my God, we're talking about building statues, but it certainly can snowball.
Was it Bristol we beat? Did Bristol after Shrewsbury?
Yeah.
Bristol away, then it was Man U, yeah. Sorry, just on Gary O'Neill, Sam, just before you move on. I thought his interview was really good last night after the game as well. because obviously everyone was like, "Whoa, Wembley, here we come," type thing, and he would kind of give it the, we can't underestimate Coventry. Look what Sheffield United did to us, which I thought was great. And Neto was the same, but Neto said if we keep humble, feet on the ground, he knows we've got the group to get to the FA Cup final. That's what he said, so he's very confident, which is good to hear. And they're all confident. We've got a confident bunch and tight knit. Semedo's interview really good as well. Like, you've got to admit, Gary O'Neill has really improved Semedo as well for me. Really,
totally agree with that. But I also think if you don't think you're going to win, then there's no point turning up.
So, I agree. Yeah, of course. Speaking of Neto, another week, another rumour. Tottenham this time aiming for a wide forward apparently as their major summer signing, and they're either looking Jack at Neto or Eze at Palace. Those are apparently their two main targets, but the decision could be made for them because Man City are looking at Eze, which means that they may have to go for Neto. Me and Harry talked about that on the pod, and obviously we've done it in previous podcasts, but when you see the team playing like they are and the players speaking about the manager in the way that they do you think that actually maybe secretly in the back of your mind you're thinking he would possibly stay? And obviously it depends what we do at the end of the season, but it just seems that you don't want to ruin a good thing.
I'd like him to stay. I don't think he'd be particularly unhappy if he stayed. He seems to be liking it. It'd be another situation where we'd want a lot of money, and if someone came and put a massive wage on the table where he could go and play Champions League football or similar, then he's got to consider it. But the other thing you've got to think of is if someone was throwing around 80, 90 million pounds, euros, whatever, then it's a bit of a risk on a player who does get injured. He's a bit injury prone, isn't he? So you don't really know, and we've been really patient with him, I think, and he does owe us a little bit, but I don't know. We didn't get a lot of this just because he's the amount of assists he's got this season, and it's going to keep happening. And every time there's a post about it, you get like Arsenal fans thinking he's going to go there, and they just say, "Oh yeah, sign him up." And like it's not that simple. But let's see where we are at the end of the season, because if we've won the cup and we're in Europe, then he might not want to go anywhere anyway, and this might all just be hot air. So we'll see.
I love getting too excited. It's amazing. Just finally before we go, just when you think that you couldn't have loads of too much respect for someone like Kenny Jackett, Harry, because I think we were talking about the best managers. You just have the utmost respect for him. He moves even higher up the notches when Jamie Ohara comes out on a podcast this week and says that he was very nasty to him. Oh,
that clip! Like Ohara was like. So the money he was on back then as well, which annoys me even more. He's on about 30 grand, 40 grand a week back then in League One. Kenny Jackett gives him one more lifeline. As a shocker, obviously Kenny Jackett goes mad at him, says, "Get your foot out." And he says, "I ain't played for a year." So you're on 40 grand a week. Put a performance in League One. You're meant to be a Premier League player. The bloke's a knob. And every time he talks about Wolves, he digs himself a deeper hole. And I'm going to ring TalkSport again and start shouting at him. I'm joking. No, but he is a knob, and he is a knob. It's as simple as that. To be honest, I loved his goal against Albion away. That was a highlight. But as soon as he signed the contract and he weren't on loan, he was horrendous, and he's a disgrace of a footballer. He shouldn't have a job as a pundit. He's a poor excuse as a footballer, and he's a crap.
He's a professional.
I'm seeing Kenny Jackett all day. Kenny Jackett's a legend. So.
It's classic. It's classic though, like player who was at a big club, so has a big club mentality, but without the actual footballing ability to back it up. Because if he hadn't come from Spurs and wasn't known as that player on the fringes of the Spurs squad, and he'd have just played in the Championship his whole career, and nobody would know who he is now.
He is.
So
he is
just a cast off, and
he's the total definition of all fart no poo, except for one goal away at the Albion.
There's a little nugget, yeah. He is, yeah. I think he's
Jamie O'Hara.
Yeah, no. So I like that. I enjoyed that clip, and obviously, long live Kenny Jackett. And we will leave it there. Leave it there for this week, and say goodbye to Harry Mansell.
Yes, goodbye,
Captain Darling.
Yeah, good evening, darling.
And Jack Williams.
Yeah, bye. Come on, the Wolves.
And it's a goodbye from me. Goodbye.